Belgium. President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent working visits to Ireland and Belgium on the 8th and 9th of October 2025 have further deepened South Africa's international partnerships and unlocked new avenues for trade and investment. During the Belgium visit, President Ramaphosa participated in the Global Gateway Forum in Brussels from the 9th to the 10th, where 11.5 billion euros, which amounts to 229 billion rands, a global gateway investment package to South Africa was announced by the European Commission President. The package commits to raising European investments in the country by 173 billion rands in a just energy transition, 24 billion in just component, and 20 billion in infrastructure and connectivity, and 6 billion in building the pharmaceutical value chain. Cabinet welcomed the investment package and the impact it will have on economic growth, job creation, local businesses, and infrastructure development. G20 countdown. The countdown to the G20 Leader Summit has begun in earnest, and we are left with a few days to host the nations of the world in November in South Africa at the Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg. President Ramaphosa undertook an inspection in Loco on Friday, the 10th of October 2025 at the Nasrec Expo Center to get appraisal on the venue preparedness. The Gauteng provincial government, supported by the Presidency, also undertakes weekly infrastructure readiness assessment meetings to assess the readiness and gaps requiring intervention as we prepare to host the G20. And all is on course. South Africa is ready to host the G20. Cabinet decisions. Final Integrated Resource Plan, IRP 2025. Cabinet approved the final draft Integrated Resource Plan 2025, which is a long-term plan designed to map out the country's electricity mix or energy mix, aiming to balance supply and demand while considering environmental impact and the cost of electricity. The final policy presented to Cabinet represents a 2.23 trillion rands investment that will define South Africa's energy mix for the future. The plan aims to reduce the environmental footprint of electricity by limiting both global and local emissions. It focuses on addressing immediate capacity constraints and planning for long-term goals, such as achieving a net zero electricity sector by 2050. The IRP 2025 is an improvement to the IRP 2023 that was approved by Cabinet previously. Government Communication Policy 2025. Cabinet approved the amendments to the Government Communication Policy 2018 to have the Government Communication Policy 2025. The policy responds to changes in the communication environment, ensuring a well-informed public by coordinating government communication to ensure that it's coherent, seamless, and provide government information in a timely, accurate, and accessible manner. The policy, which is aligned with the MTDP 2025-2029, applies to all three spheres of government, including their agencies and entities. In the context of the Government of National Unity, the policy will provide guidance on the coherence of messaging, in particular on matters of government policy and national interest. Nation Brand Central Idea and Country Repositioning Strategy. Cabinet was appraised on the results of the recent Nation Brand Reputation Study conducted by Brand SA. Cabinet approved the country repositioning strategy, which defines South Africa's core nation brand value proposition. The strategy is built around coordinated communication, targeted stakeholder engagement, and country-specific messaging to ensure resonance across diverse markets. Brand SA will commence to launch and implement their strategy. On bills, Defense Amendment Bill 2025. Cabinet approved the submission of the Defense Amendment Bill 2025 to Parliament. The main purpose of the bill is to amend the certain clauses in compliance with the Constitutional Court judgment in the matter between O'Brien and Ovisa, the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, and others of 2024. The case concerned the independence of military courts, particularly two military courts of first instance established under the Military Discipline Supplementary Measures Act of 1999, the Court of the Military Judge and the Court of the Senior Military Judge. The amendments will address all the constitutional discrepancies raised by the Apex Court. Military Discipline Supplementary Measures Amendment Bill 2025. Cabinet approved submission of the Military Discipline Supplementary Measures Amendment Bill 2025 to Parliament. The amendments are also aimed at addressing certain clauses in compliance with the Constitutional Court judgment in the matter between O'Brien and O and the Minister of Defense. The case concerned the independence of military courts, particularly two military courts of first instance, as mentioned earlier. Withdrawal of the processing of mentioned shipping bill 2023, Cabinet approved the withdrawal from Parliament of the mentioned shipping bill 2023 to allow the Department of Transport to finalize the NEDLEC process. The bill overhauls the mentioned Shipping Act of 1951 to give effect to the vision of government aimed at reviving the mentioned shipping component of the maritime transport sector, aimed at enhancing its contribution to economic growth. On appointments, all appointments are subject to verification of qualifications and the relevant security clearances. Mr. Bongani Saidini as the Chief Executive Officer of the Petroleum Agency of South Africa. Ms. Ditebogo Babra Khomo as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Nuclear Regulator. Mr. Makahlele Richard Manzini as the Chief Investment Officer in the Small Enterprise Development and Finance Agency. Mr. Mulatlegi Hauwe as the Chief Financial Officer at SIFTA. Ms. Xoliswa Daku as the member of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa Board. Mr. Christopher Johannes Lotter as to serve on the board of the Ports Regulator of South Africa. The other board members of the Ports Authority of the Ports Regulator were announced earlier in this quarter. Cabinet approved the appointment of members of the board of the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa, who are Mr. David Nichols, Chairperson, Dr. Vuyo Mthethwa, Deputy Chairperson, Dr. Derek Voltfart, Dr. Kensani Shivuburi, Mr. Ismail Lambert, Dr. Pulane Mulokwane, Mr. Eugene Julis, and Ms. Phumelele Dlungwane. Cabinet also approved the appointment of members of the board of Eskom Holdings, who are Dr. Busisiwe Vilakazi, Mr. Lwazi Gotwana, Mr. Clive Leroux, Dr. Andrew Barense, Dr. Dimakadzo Matsoga, Dr. Gaugelo Shilwane, Ms. Shamil Govind, Dr. Vuyo Pitch, Dr. Zakani Mtombeni, Ms. Bajabulile Shabalala, Mr. Tsokolo Nchocho. And we must note that the current board chairperson, Dr. Mteto Nyati's term is still yet to expire, so he remains the chairperson of the board of Eskom. Cabinet also approved the appointment of additional interim board members to the Universal Service and Access Agency of South Africa, Mr. Busani Ngangweni, Ms. Yoliswa Kedama, Ms. Carmen Cupido, and Ms. Rachel Kalidas. Cabinet also approved the appointment of directors to the board of Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, commonly known as CBRAT. Mr. Kevin van der Merwe is a reappointment and is the chairperson. Advocate Adil Chowan, a reappointment. Ms. Loiso Kula, reappointment, and she's appointed as a deputy chairperson. Ms. Kitumezi Mahlangu, Ms. Yongama Pamela Dludlu, Dr. Dineo Penelope Matibedi, Ms. Zandile Kabini, Mr. Randall Howard, and Mr. Dave Jackson Muswane. Updates to Cabinet. Cabinet received updates on the Jagersfontein Tailings Storage Facility Failure Investigation Report. Cabinet was briefed about the findings of the technical investigation into the Jagersfontein Tailings Storage Facility failure, which caused severe devastation to the town of Jagersfontein in the Free State. The Minister of Water and Sanitation, Ms. Phemima Jodina, will release the report to the public. Cabinet is pleased that criminal proceedings on this matter have commenced, with the accused having appeared in the Jagersfontein Magistrate Court on the 11th of September 2025. South Africa's oil and gas sector. Cabinet received an update on the developments in South Africa's oil and gas sector. The country is making great strides towards leveraging gas resources for both power generation and fuel-related purposes. And its shale formations in the Karoo Basin are estimated to hold as much as 200 trillion cubic feet of gas resources. The country seeks to accelerate exploration in both on and offshore markets to unlock the full potential of its oil and gas resources. Ongoing exploration and production, including at the Virginia Gas Project in the Free State, the Amersfoort and Foxrot Gas Project in Mpumalanga, and the Lipalale Coal Bed Methane Project in Limpopo. These projects hold substantial natural gas and helium resources. The Minister of Fisheries Forestry and Environment has finalized the shale gas regulations, and they will be gazetted before the end of October 2025. These regulations will provide a regulatory framework to control the environmental and safety risks associated with fracking. The situation in the Sudan. Cabinet condemned the continued conflict in the Sudan that has recently resulted in the killing of estimated 60 civilians, of which 17 were children, by the Rapid Support Forces on the 9th of October 2025 in El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur in Sudan. Cabinet has noted with concern that to date, thousands of civilians remain trapped by the siege of El Fasher, which has become the epicenter of indiscriminate attacks by the RSF, which is worsening the already dire humanitarian crisis. On another front, Cabinet welcomed the strengthening of cooperation in the areas of security, intelligence, and the formation of the Joint Economic Committee between South Sudan and Sudan. Cabinet regards this strengthening of relations as critical for the improvement of regional stability and security. Since South Africa is a peace guarantor, Cabinet welcomed the conclusion of a successful working visit by Deputy President Paul Mashatile to Juba, South Sudan, in his capacity as the Presidential Special Envoy to South Sudan. The working visit focused on reactivating the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement that had stalled, President Trump's Israel-Palestine peace plan, and the return of global summit flotilla activists. Government welcomed the signing of President Trump's Israel-Palestine peace plan, paving the way to end the devastating conflict in Gaza. This development aligns with South Africa's long-standing commitment to global peace, justice, and freedom for the people of Palestine. Cabinet further welcomed further welcomed and urges all parties to honor the negotiated steps and pursue a credible and inclusive political process that will bring to an end the humanitarian crisis and prevent further losses of life. Cabinet also welcomed the commencement of the implementation of Phase 1 of the peace plan with the release of Israeli hostages in exchange of Palestinian political prisoners. The South African government continues to advocate for a complete end of the occupation of Gaza and other Palestinian territories. Cabinet also welcomed the safe return of the 6 South African humanitarian activists who participated in the Global Summit Flotilla, a mission aimed at delivering food and medical supplies to Gaza. Cabinet calls for an immediate ceasefire, unimpeded humanitarian access, and safe evacuation of civilians from active conflict zones. Political developments in the Republic of Madagascar. Cabinet has noted with concern the recent political unrest in the Republic of Madagascar, which have led to loss of lives and destruction of property. Cabinet calls for calm and for the people and role players to seek a peaceful resolution of the stalemate in a manner that upholds the principles of democracy and the rule of law. On upcoming events, the Transport Month. As we mark Transport Month this October, South Africa celebrates the vital role of transport in driving our economy and shaping our daily lives. With the month now in full swing, this annual commemoration highlights the strength of our transport infrastructure across aviation, maritime, roads, and public transport. Our investments in the transport sector fuel economic growth and job creation. Upgrades in the rail, roads, and public transport are transforming how South Africans access workplaces, schools, and recreational facilities, fostering greater connectivity and opportunity, but also driving economic growth. A standout moment for the Transport Month was the SA Auto Week, which was held on from the 1st to the 3rd of October 2025 in Nelson Mandela Bay. The 7th Social Justice Summit. President Ramaphosa will attend the 7th Social Justice Summit at Stellenbosch University on the 17th of October 2025, convened under the theme Social Justice, Food Security and Peace, Pathways to Equality, Solidarity, Sustainability, and Climate Resilience. The summit will bring together policymakers, legislators, political parties, judiciary, traditional and religious leaders, civil society, and academia to foster high-level dialogue on food security as a cornerstone for social justice, equality, and sustainable development. 2025 Africa Summit. The Africa Summit by the Financial Times will be convened in London between the 21st and 22nd of October 2025 under the theme Africa in a Changing World. The summit will bring together heads of state, ministers, business leaders, financiers, and innovators to explore how African countries can navigate a global shift in alliances, leverage digital and renewable technologies, deepen intra-continental trade, and attract sustainable investments. National Senior Certificate Exams. Cabinet wishes the class of 2025 all the best as they prepare for the National Senior Certificate exams that will commence on the 21st of October 2025, so the countdown is on, and conclude on the 27th of November 2025. Government acknowledges the dedication of teachers, parents, and guardians who continue to provide support to the learners with the confidence to excel. Cabinet calls on parents and guardians to remain actively involved in motivating and encouraging learners, whilst also ensuring that they have a supportive and conducive environment for study and preparation at home. But to the class of 2025, we have all the confidence in you. The future is in your hands. You decide what to make of it. On messages of condolences, Cabinet has expressed its condolences to the people and the government of Kenya on the passing of former Prime Minister of Kenya, Mr. Raila Odinga, who was Prime Minister between 2008 and 2023. He also served as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructure Development between 2018 and 2023, and is a long-time politician in Kenya and was a member of Parliament. To the family and friends of former Minister and South Africa's Ambassador to France, Mr. Nathi Mthethwa, who served in the Cabinet for 15 years in the portfolios of sports, arts and culture, and police. He also played an instrumental role in South Africa's liberation struggle. In recognition of his outstanding service to our nation and her people, President Ramaphosa declared a special official funeral Category 2 for the late Ambassador Mthethwa. On congratulations, Cabinet extends its congratulations and well wishes to Professor Peter Mutharika on his electoral victory in the Republic of Malawi's general election, and wish him every success as he prepares to undertake the weighty responsibility conferred upon him by the people of Malawi. South Africa looks forward to continued strong relationship between South Africa and Malawi at a government level, but also at a people-to-people relations. Professor Priya Soma Pillay on an election as Vice President of the International Federation of Gynecology and Obstetrics, which is commonly known as FIGO, during the 2025 FIGO General Assembly in Cape Town. And also to us as a country, because we have been recognized for our groundbreaking efforts in combating obesity and non-communicable diseases, receiving the UN Interagency Task Force Award at the 10th Annual Friends of the Task Force meeting in New York, USA. The recognition underscores South Africa's leadership in addressing obesity and non-communicable diseases, setting a benchmark for other nations to follow in the fight against preventable diseases. We want to congratulate the Public Protector of South Africa on marking its 30th anniversary. The Public Protector of South Africa has played a pivotal role in upholding democratic principles, transparency, and good governance. To the Springboks for their back-to-back win of the Rugby Championship, the team has once again demonstrated resilience, skill, and unity on the global scale, and now they are being joined by Bafana Bafana, and our sports are doing what they're expected to do, to be a unifier for a diverse nation, but to be ambassador for the excellence and resilience of South Africa. Again, no DNA, just RSA. We also extend our congratulations to South Africa's national under-20 soccer team, Amajita, for reaching the last 16th stage of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile. Thank you. We'll then take the questions, and I hope we'll then be quick in the questions so that we can conclude before the commissions resume. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive update to the nation about the decisions and deliberations of Cabinet. Highly appreciated. Colleagues, let's start with the questions. We'll start first in the House, and then we'll go to our online questions. As I've indicated, the drill is the same. Let me note this hand and note that hand and note, then I recognize the hands in that order. Yours, second, third, and fourth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barili. It's Natasha Kweli here from SABC News. Minister, I think I'm covered with the Limpopo Vice question in terms of the ARVs that were found. But just out of interest, in terms of the repatriation of bodies, will the South African government help? If so, where will they assist? In terms of the G20, I think the last time we spoke in September, the last cabinet meeting, there was an indication that there was that shortfall of 153 million rand for the G20 to actually hold the G20. Has the South African government managed to raise that shortfall? And then also, in terms of the US tariff negotiations, how far are we in terms of that? Remember, you had said that before the president went to the 80th session of UNGA, he would be speaking with officials on the sidelines of UNGA. That's what you said the last time. Okay, well, how far are we in terms of those negotiations? Thank you.
Thank you.
Antoinette Slobot, I'm a freelance energy writer. Minister, can you give us a bit of insight into the content of the integrated resource plan in terms of the technology needs of future generation capacity?
Thank you.
Good morning. Alpha Mushwana here from Eyewitness News. I'm covered when it comes to the bus accident question. I imagine Cabinet will have also discussed the SIU raids or SIU operations that we have been seeing as of late. What are Cabinet's reflections on it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Minister, I'd like to find out if you are able to share any insights on the suspension of the crime intelligence boards, as we heard yesterday that the president announced that any insights, and a question not directly linked to that issue. The capacity of state security in this country, looking at what has been happening at various institutions of higher learning in this country, because that situation for 10 days simply has taken place now, spiraling over to the University of the Free State. So considering all that has been happening in this country, looking at the things that have come out in various commissions and ad hoc committees, what's the capacity, what's the state of capacity of crime intelligence in this country? But also, are we able to pick up and to prevent such incidents? And then on the issue of generally, as the president, I know you might not be speaking on behalf of the president, but the issue of having cabinet ministers being implicated in serious and highly publicized matters today, the police minister will be appearing before that committee. Generally, isn't that concerning in terms of the credibility of the cabinet itself? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us give the minister an opportunity to respond to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start with the questions from the last person. So you're confusing crime intelligence, state security, and Inspector General of Intelligence. So the president does not suspend the subcrime intelligence boss. Yes, that's why I wanted to clarify. He doesn't suspend. And the president, yes, indeed, the presidency has announced that the Inspector General the Inspector General of Intelligence has been put on suspension because the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence is initiating or has initiated an investigation against him, and the statement of the President clarifies the conditions under which the Inspector General can be suspended. So I'll refer you to that statement. And then you raise an issue of the capacity of state security, but also capacity of crime intelligence. Given the situation in universities of higher learning, institutions of higher learning, excuse me. So university institutions and their students are fighting. They have their own disagreements, and it results in what it has resulted in. Whereas I hope you know that institutions of higher learning are independent. What we then do ourselves, we then provide the briefing to the minister who is relevant, which is the Minister of Higher Education. And they've been doing the interventions which they are required. But it has nothing to do with state security or crime intelligence. It has to do with how university community, both the leadership of institutions of higher learning and the student representative councils and other bodies that are involved, manage the disputes within the universities and how they mediate itself. And the Minister of Higher Education have articulated on the interventions that they are making. I hope you know that even police entering a university campus, they need permission from the university. I hope you know that part.
What I was saying, just in terms of, because especially for tech, both the university have been saying that there are, interests that are not actually, coming from the students that have been sponsoring, especially the torturing of infrastructure. So I'm asking my question in that context in terms of able to detect any foreign elements that might be here.
The simple question is that was there a briefing provided to the Minister of Higher Education? Yes, there was a briefing provided. We can't do more than that. The universities must sort out their own issues. They must invite law enforcement agencies, which law enforcement agencies have stepped in. But campuses are free spaces, which the police, that's why, if you remember, even in the 80s and early 90s before freedom, when there were unrest in campuses, police could not enter a campus unless with the permission of the university vice chancellor. So and that's why the universities have to call in for the police to come in. They cannot just freely walk in there. It's an independent institution. That's how our laws are. So we need to also keep that in mind. And there was also another question on the ministers being allegations made. Ministers are not immune for allegations being leveled against them. The president has acted, he has constituted a commission of inquiry to go to the veracity of the allegation. And the fact that an allegation is made, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are guilty. That's why there is an inquiry or an investigation that is underway to confirm or dispel the veracity of those things. Because you can just wake up and make an allegation against me as Khumbudzo Ntshavheni without even knowing me from a bar of soap. And therefore, government does not work on rumor mills. Government must work on facts, and that's what our justice system requires. That's where fairness requires. That's what our constitution provides for. And that commission is investigating the very allegations. And Parliament has also initiated their own process, and the ad hoc committee. You are watching it. Unfortunately, I can't speak on the ad hoc committee because Parliament is also an independent arm of government. They can speak for themselves. And then Cabinet does not discuss law enforcement operations. The raids are part of law enforcement operations. What is important, however, to note is that the SIU does not just wake up and go investigate and go and raid. The SIU works because the president has assigned it to say there's an area of concern that we want you to go and investigate these allegations and the veracity and find us the culprits. And when they've done the investigation, they then act. So SIU is not a result of accident. It's intentional work of government led by the president who sanctions SIU investigations, and also in other areas expands the scope on SIU investigation, confirming the government's commitment in the fight against corruption. And what you see as SIU raids that are very often is because we are now succeeding, and the pace at which they are moving, they are. Because the fact that you see action being taken, it means the fight against corruption, it's right on course, and we must celebrate that as South Africans. Should we only wait to react to corruption? No, we must also prevent it, so that it should not take place in the first instance. We should not always be seeking corrective action. We must be preventing corruption, and that's what government also focuses on. There was a request for the technology mix in the IRP 2025. Minister Ramkhupa is briefing on Sunday, and he's more colorful than me, so I want to leave it to him, and you'll enjoy the briefing on Sunday. He'll give you more details than a mere cabinet spokesperson. He's an engineer. I just deal with technology. And then on the, I'm not aware of the G20 shortfall. I'm not aware, and I'm in the IMC, so I do not know. So I'm in the IMC. I'm not aware of the shortfall. I know we are preparing to host the G20. We are on track. And the president was never, and if you go to the statement, I can't remember the exact date, I think it's the 9th of September, if not the 15th of September, we're very clear that Minister Park Stow and the special advice of the president, Mr. Alistair Reuters, were the ones negotiating. The president was never going to talk to the American delegation in terms of the U.S. tariffs. And at that point, Minister Tao also briefed from New York, indicating the progress that they've made, that the U.S. has revised the initial proposal based on our response, and now we're doing a line-by-line analysis of that response so that we can then finalize the negotiations. I hope you're clear, so you can refer to the cabinet statement of then. We're very clear that it was the president was meeting with CEOs of businesses as part of him attracting investment, meeting with congressmen, I think, and also senators, I can't remember, as part of improving our bilateral relations with the American government and other spheres of government in the USA. On the repatriation of bodies, will government assist? Yes, government will assist, but like what we've done in Botswana, we'll give them a bill of treatment and also the repatriation of their bodies. We have done it before. Remember, and in particular in the Limpopo province, this is not the first experience of such a horrific accident. We had a similar experience last year, and is it last year or early this year? Yes, it's early this year. We have had that similar experience, so the province is quite capable, and they do what is necessary. The remains are with us, so we must do what is required in terms of South African law to make sure that everybody is confirmed. Of course, we must work with both the governments of Zimbabwe and Malawi to confirm the identity of the people, and their families will have to be involved as well. And then we are treating the ones who are injured in Limpopo, and will then release them to go home. But as indicated earlier, the police investigations are underway on the prescription medication that have been stolen. That is setting us back as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. As we move forward also to allowing other processes at 11, but we'll make sure that we cover what we have to cover. Let me check if we have any online questions, and I'll request that we read them on the record, but it appears there is an urgent question from the House. Let us take it first, maybe before we go to the online questions.
Good morning, it's Nkosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. My question is on the National Dialogue or the National Convention, whatever it's called. It was hosted in August, and firstly, it wasn't completed. There were no reports or resolutions adopted, and we were told that this was the first phase of the national dialogue. A lot of money has been invested in this national dialogue. However, government hasn't said anything since it was last hosted in August. So I just wanted to find out from government, what is the way forward on this national dialogue? Is it yielding its intended purpose, and where do we stand with it? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see also there is a burning hand. May you move to the notes so that we can record, put it on record.
Thank you so much, Minister. My name is Peter Malabane from IUC. Minister, kindly explain the U.S. funding from the Disease Control Center. Why is it on a transitional period, Minister? 6 months? In the past, before the cutoffs, I don't remember it being 6 months, but why now 6 months after the US has revised the funding? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tagalani, take us through the online questions. All of them.
Thank you, Mr. B. The first question is from Simon, who is representing Inside Politics. And the question is, some European countries, such as Spain, have reportedly threatened to boycott the 2026 World Cup if Israel qualifies. And then given that Bafana Bafana is qualified and South Africa stands on the war in Gaza, will South Africa consider boycotting the games if Israel qualifies? The second question is from Paul Bloomberg. The question is, when will the full IRP be released to the public? And secondly, when will South Africa appoint a new ambassador to the US? The third question from Lithonolo from Fullview. Can the minister assist and educate some of us, given that yesterday the portfolio committee said Minister Kacharia can't use cabinet as an excuse not to attend the meeting. The question is therefore, what is the correct procedure? And the fourth and the last question from William Prince, representing Network 24, similar to the question that was asked by our colleague in the room from Newsroom Africa. For the record, the question is, the President announced that he suspended the Inspector General of Intelligence pending an investigation by Parliament into his conduct. Can the Minister shed more light on why the Inspector General was suspended, and is the country's intelligence services in a crisis, and can South Africans still trust the intelligence services to keep them safe? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, with the time not be on your side, I'll request that after you responded to the questions, you can also close the briefing. Thank you.
So we're going to be quick. The national dialogue. So we explained that the national dialogue is not driven by government, it's driven by civil society. And the national dialogue, at its commencement, we needed a forum to plan for it, which was the National Convention. At the National Convention, it was agreed that there will be all the representative sectors will then come together, for instance, education, whoever, they'll agree on who is representing them. And that process has gone on, but we are left with 2, if not 3 sectors that have not finalized their representation into the steering committee that must drive the national dialogue. So if we steam ahead as government, then you are going to be saying government has hijacked the national dialogue. It's not a people's dialogue, it's government's dialogue. So we're waiting for civil society to find each other and agree on representation into the steering committee so that they can then drive the national dialogue process. The Deputy President is fully in charge and nudging them and doing what is required to actively nudge them to that direction. So the national dialogue is still on, but we are waiting for the constitution of the steering committee. The question around the funding of the from the Disease Control Center, why is it transitional? You remember when President Trump cut off the PEPFAR funding, the major complaint was that you have not given us enough notice to prepare as nations a balance. So the 115 million US dollars comes in to allow nations, and in particular South Africa, because I can only speak for South Africa, to then say, between now and then, this is what you are going to use, but beyond that, we are not getting in. So start planning and adjusting, and that's the work that is being done. And that's why it is transitional. And it's a confirmation of the good bilateral relationships between South Africa and the USA, so that when we have complaints, they intervene and we find an amicable solution to the problem. And then there were the questions of when will the IRP be done? I think I've responded. Sunday, the minister briefs, and those questions go there. And then on the Inspector General, the statement of the President has been very clear on the reasons. I cannot say more than that. It doesn't, the Inspector General is an oversight body, and it's not one person, there's a full office. The intelligence structures are different from the Inspector General. So the intelligence structures are fully operational, whether it's crime intelligence, whether it's state security, whether it's defense intelligence, they're still operational and coordinating. The decision by the European Union countries of boycotting, what our understanding is that football is independent from government policy. So that question must be directed to SAFA, of whether South Africa will boycott. Otherwise, SAFA will be removed from the FIFA sanctioning if they are seen to be directed or dictated to by government. You know, in countries where governments have intervened with the football administration, there have been consequences meted against those governments by FIFA. And then the question around portfolio committees and ministers attending cabinet. We have an understanding, which the leader of government business continues to do, that on Wednesdays they are reserved for cabinet, and the leader of government business continues to mediate between the executive and parliament. And it's part of the issues we continue to raise to say mediate, because that understanding seems not to be in place on times where there's times for cabinet, and the times that you are required to appear in Parliament, in the Portfolio Committee. And the leader of government business strives to organize through the programming committee to make sure that the program of cabinet and the program of Parliament accommodates each other. I do not know if you are aware that we adopt a cabinet calendar for the whole year. Of course, it gets adjusted mid-year because of one or other issues, but we strive to align so that there is no competition. But Wednesdays, they are cabinet days. Thank you very much. And given the activities in the weather front, we urge South Africans to continue to monitor the weather notifications from the SA Weather Services so that we are not caught unaware. There have been predictions, but they said they will issue final confirmation, so we can't really express our view on them. So please continue to monitor the weather services. Those of you whose children are on midterm break, if you are going on holiday, please drive safely, observe the rules of the road, and stay alive. Thank you very much.
On that note, I think the briefing is adjourned. Minister, I need to put it on record that soccer is a game of billions. South Africans are also mad with soccer, and I think we know all the nations that have qualified. You can check. We know all the nations that have qualified. Some haven't qualified.
I'm leaving it to SAFA.
Thank you very much.
The ones who have not qualified are appreciated. But we are rooting for Nigeria to qualify on the playoffs. No.
Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, thank you very much. And the session is adjourned, and thank you very much for coming.